Okay, guys, so welcome back to day two of elasticity. And I remember discussing all these things yesterday. I introduced the idea of elasticity to you people and how the idea of why iron is more elastic than rubber. I clearly described that, but I hope you really understood that part. Okay, elasticity is not just bending, it is about reforming. Elasticity is all about reforming to its original shape. Okay, it's not about bending or it's not deforming, it's always about the reforming capability of a material. Sharath is asking what is the range ordering from HCV. Sharath, I don't understand your question, can you raise your hand and ask? Sharath, what
Sir,
is
in page 278, sir, under amorphous or glassy state, there's a word called range ordering, sir. I
in
didn't understand
page
that.
number 270?
8, sir.
278. Okay.
So the bottom right, sir.
At the bottom
278, the
right,
bottom.
amorphous solids do not have well-defined melting point. Is that what you're talking about?
No, sir. At the starting, there are several solids which do not exhibit a long range ordering. I didn't get that.
Uh, when I start explaining the graphs to you, you might be able to understand. Okay, the glassy state and the amorphous state. We will talk about these things. Okay, we need to talk. For now, we're only talking about the elasticity of the material, right? But once you understand the idea of elasticity, we will be talking about properties beyond elasticity. Okay, all the materials are definitely not elastic. At some point they don't behave. Do you remember this idea where you stretch a spring way too much, it doesn't really come back?
Yes, sir.
So it's not elastic anymore. There is a range only where the elasticity works. So after some point plasticity works, and after some point even plasticity doesn't work, it completely breaks. So we'll be talking about elasticity first, and then we go to the extremes and talk about what happens beyond those points. Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, Sharath.
Sir, plasticity is when we try to deform an object, it doesn't come back to its original shape, right?
Yes, yes, that is plasticity. Yes. So a material can be
Yes, sir.
elastic in a range. Okay, like take the spring as an example. You stretch it to a smaller length, I mean, like smaller expansion, it comes back, right? A spring. But when you stretch it way too much, what happens?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't really come back. So it went,
It will.
yeah, it went
Yes.
beyond the range of elasticity and started being plastic. All these things are
So,
actually can be explained using these graphs. Okay, if somebody has gone up to these graphs, you might be able to understand, but I will definitely explain it anyway, so you don't have to worry.
okay, sir.
Sharath, you have anything else to say? I guess no. Mayur is sent a text saying, why is it easy to tear paper than pulling the paper from both the sides? Mayur has a really good doubt. Guys, listen to this doubt. You take a paper. Mayur, that doubt is very important when it comes to today's topics. Okay, take a paper, pull it from both the sides. It is really strong. But take the same paper, put the forces here. The paper easily tears. Why is it? Okay. So anyone else has a explanation of the same doubt about it? If you can pull a paper from both the sides, it clearly has that strength. But if you tear it, it is not taking the stress. Why? Sharath, you seem to have an answer for. Okay, Sharath, speak up.
Sir, maybe it's because of the amount of stress. Like when we try to pull it from both the sides, there is more cross-sectional area. Then we try to tear it by just
The thing is,
the general way.
you're not applying the same amount of stress here. Okay, I can simply say this is the longitudinal stress, and this is similar, somewhere similar. Yeah, you can actually say that this is nothing but the shear stress. It's not along the length of the body, it is kind of perpendicular to the length of the body. It's not always perpendicular, but it is not about simply elongating the body. It is about, if the length is like this, you apply the force like this. That is about shear stress. Okay, So this material, the paper, can clearly take a lot of longitudinal stress for sure, but shear stress, it easily breaks. It again depends on the molecular structures of the materials only. Okay, so Mayur, that's a good doubt. We will talk about it. But anyway, yeah, if you have more doubts, please speak up right now. No, nothing? Okay, I think we are good to go. It's a good doubt. We will come back to this thing. So in the last class, I also mentioned there are three types of stress. I even remember discussing the stress and strain. Okay, why don't I just start with that idea itself again? I also discussed this point, stress and strain. This is like the cause and this is the effect. Like this is what you see. This is, if you put stress, you will see some strain. And the way we defined stress and strain are very simple. Like the amount of force that you're putting per unit cross section area is nothing but stress. And whenever you're putting some stress, the body is deforming. So change in dimensions by original dimension. Change in dimensions by original dimension. As in, if you are changing the length, delta L by L is the strain. If you're changing the area, delta A by A is the strain. If you're changing the volume, delta V by V is the strain. So change in volume, change in area, change in volume, anything. Basically change in dimensions by the original dimensions can be said as a strain. So this is stress. Whenever you put stress and you get a strain. In your textbooks, you might have come across this point already, that this stress and strain are always related, and in fact they are proportional also. We will talk about it. So I discussed this yesterday. Now I also introduced three words to you people yesterday in yesterday's class: the longitudinal, shear, and volume. Let us talk about them. So stress is of three types. One, the longitudinal stress. Why am I missing N every time? The longitudinal stress. It's very simple. Whenever you have a rod, you put a force on this side. Now, what happens if I put a force only on just one side? Will it elongate? Will it just simply accelerate away? It will simply accelerate away, right? So to put the real amount of stress, I have to put the force on both the sides. Now, guys, please remember, when you're putting the same amount of force on other end also, this is completely similar to this idea where I fix it to one wall and pulling it from the other side. This is also completely similar. They're not two different ideas. First of all, you need to get it. Okay, these two are completely same ideas. So you're basically putting F force on one side, so F force on the other side, so that the rod doesn't move. Now, whatever happens along the length, the force is just along the length, and that is what we call it as the longitudinal stress. How do I define the longitudinal stress? The tension in the rope, tension at any point. If, and I hope you remember how we remember. I mean, how we calculate the amount of tension. At any point, we break the material. So there is tension T, F, F. Good thing is nothing is accelerating. So acceleration is 0. So I can directly write T equals to F, T equals to F. The tension is nothing but equals to F. So the tension is basically F throughout the material. Now we define the longitudinal stress as the tension by area, or the force by area. But since they are equal, now what is this area? The area is nothing but this area of cross section. This area of cross section is area. Please remember. Now it's not just this. Since you are calculating at this point, it is this. Now in this case, you can even calculate at some other point also, but you'll exactly get the same value, right? There is nothing different. I mean, take the same rod. Forces are acting. Try to break it somewhere over here. You'll get the same idea. I mean, so the tension is same. So the stress, the longitudinal LONG stress is basically tension by area or F by area. So in this specific case, the stress is same throughout the material. You don't have to differentiate at any point. The stress is basically the same. So this is what we call it as a longitudinal stress. It is happening along its length. All the stress you're actually putting it along its along its length. Now that is longitudinal stress. Let us talk about longitudinal strain. I keep missing this N. Longitudinal strain. Like I mentioned already, since I put this force, even though the other end is fixed, let's just imagine the other end is fixed. I mean, the other end is basically putting the same amount of force. That is why it's not moving. So since it is fixed, let us say it elongated by some length delta L. So longitudinal strain, L strain, can be written as delta L by L. L strain can be written as delta L by L. Okay. This is how the longitudinal strain is written. So guys, please remember these 2 points. This is longitudinal stress and this is longitudinal strain. When you come across different problems, let me show you some problems later. First of all, let's discuss all these ideas first. This is longitudinal stress, longitudinal strain, and then comes shear stress. Now this is an interesting part. Now shear stress can act in different styles. Let me show you all the styles. Okay, like take a rod. Instead of elongating it, you fix it. Instead of putting a force, if you're putting a force, it will be longitudinal. So it's a longitudinal stress, but we don't put the force like that. I put the force like this so that it deforms like this. Okay, this is the kind of stress that you're putting. You're trying to deform it. Or you can do one more thing. You can take the same cylinder and twist it. You can twist it so that, let us say, this line is moved to this line. So it didn't move, it simply twisted. So this is also shear stress only. So it's like, we are not putting any force that is parallel to length. You're basically putting a force that is perpendicular to that area of cross section, strictly speaking. You're basically putting a force that is perpendicular to the area of cross section. So here also shear stress is measured the same way. Guys, at any point, if you have any problem, please ask. Shear stress is the same thing, F by area only. But this force is perpendicular to the normal surface. Sorry, this is parallel to the normal surface. But here the force is perpendicular. You see this? To the area, it is perpendicular. So that is basically shear stress. Now, how do I write the strain? Can anybody tell me how you write the strain? Aniket?
Sir, I had one doubt.
Yeah,
Is this like friction, sir?
Not exactly. Why did you bring friction here?
Just got a doubt, sir, because the way it was going.
Not exactly.
Okay,
Can you tell me how the strain is how the strain can be defined here?
sir, the change in position of center of mass?
No, stress is clear. Stress is clear.
Yes,
Somebody
sir.
said me saying F by A, that is stress, that is clear. But how do you write the strain? Because you have the material like this. Now the material is bent like this. So how do you rate the deformation? How do you show the deformation? Like, if you have to mention the deformation in some terms, what's the best way to mention the deformation?
So we can say the change in position of center of mass.
Okay, but it's not acceptable. Gopika already gave a good answer on that. Gopika gave a good answer. Bangi, Karthik, let's see what you got. Karthik, what's your answer? Karthik, I unmuted you.
Sir, change in volume.
No, I don't think the volume changes. I mean, the deformation is so little, the volume doesn't really change. Okay, Gopika gave a good answer. Sharath also gave the good answer. Yes, both of you got the good answer. Gopika and Sharat, nobody else is giving me a good answer. Change in area of cross. No, 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 no. Guys, let me draw it again. The deformation looks like this, okay? It looks something like this, like a very small deformation because of this force. Geetanjali says change in dimensions. No. Okay, Zaid gave the good answer again, right? Zaid, Sharat, and Zaid, Sharat, and Gopika. Sai Harshita Challa also gave the good answer. Yes, you also gave the good answer. Okay, I appreciate your creativity in this thing. Watch it. You can represent this strain simply in the terms of this angle. That's it. This angle is basically the strain, but we don't write the strain like that, right? So they represent strain by this movement. Let us call it this some x, and this is height h. So basically x by height h, which is also theta. Since the angle is so small, it is nearly equal to theta. So basically you can represent strain like this or like this, the angle displaced. Okay, so that is how they write the strain in this. And in the other case where I talked about twisting, Aniket has a doubt again. Aniket, what is it?
So if strain is too high, will it make the body move?
Yeah, but we are not talking about that much of a strain, that much level of a strain. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, all the things will happen. Obviously, if the strain is too much, if the stress is too much, things will definitely change. But we are not talking to those terms. We are talking only in the range of values where we can talk only about elasticity, nothing else.
Okay, sir.
Now, again, let's talk about this kind of a shear stress where I twist the body. Let us say this line is how do I show it? There is this reference line for us. Initially, it's like this. When I twisted the body, that reference line came to this point. So the body twisted by this angle. You see this angle? That angle is shear strain in that case. Some people actually write this length by this height. So this is like r theta, and this is the height of the thing. So that is also some people write r theta by h. So that is a shear strain. You don't really get this case a lot, but this case, yes, we will get this case a lot. We will definitely discuss this case a lot. Shear strain. Now let me relate these two again. Let me repeat these two things again. Longitudinal stress and strain. Similarly, shear stress comma strain. Both longitudinal stress comma strain. So if only I have a body that is fixed to the ground and I put a force like this. This area of cross section is A. Can somebody tell me what type of stress will be there? Will there be both the kind of stresses? The force is at an angle, clearly observe. What will happen now? Anybody? Will there be both the types of stresses now? Gopika says both. Sharat says both. Yes, yes. Everyone's basically agreeing. There will be both the kinds of stress. Yes, I agree. So the rod will basically elongate and also slightly deform. Yes. To write both the stresses, all I need to do is simply take the components f cos theta, f sin theta. So the longitudinal stress is nothing but f cos theta by area. The shear stress is basically f sin theta by area. F cos theta by area, f sin theta by area. That is the only difference. Okay. So I hope you understand both the shear stress and shear strain clearly at this point. Okay, these two are shear, longitudinal and shear. These are the basic ideas. Let us talk about the third type of stress, which is the volume stress. The volume stress or the bulk stress. They call it as the bulk stress. Guys, I forgot to give you a name. The shear stress also has another name. The rigidity, I guess. The rigidity kind of a stress, but no, let's not talk about this. Let's leave it. Let's forget that name. If I remember it correctly, I'll give you that again. Okay. But yeah, come back to volume stress. It's also called as bulk stress. So whenever you have a body, you're putting the stress from all the sides. How do you put the stress from all the sides? Like I said, you put it in the liquid and you put all the stress. We have to consider the all the pressure at all the points is basically the same. So I have to write the force from all the sides, the total force acting by total surface area of the body. That is basically pressure. Do you remember that? Pressure is nothing but force by area when you submerge your body. Yeah, of course the pressure is varying between point to point, but we don't really consider that as a coefficient here. Okay, it's like we have a large tank and the ball is really really small, so the pressure at this point is almost uniform, so we simply write volume stress as pressure. That's it. Volume stress as nothing but pressure. It's as simple as that. Volume strain. Volume strain, again, when the body is under that stress, let us just say it compressed. So there is a change in volume. There is a change in volume. So that change in volume delta V by V, that change in volume delta V by V is going to cause that change in, that is basically defined as the volume strain, delta V by V. All right. No. Bulk stress, bulk strain, like I said, this can be said as called as bulk stress. This can be called as bulk strain. All right. Once you understand all these three things, I'll have to take you through one of the most important idea, which is called as Hooke's law. I am sure you all might have come across this idea here. In this thing itself, yeah, Hooke's law or modulus of elasticity. I will talk about it. Okay, guys, there are some examples in this thing in your textbook. Fine, let me discuss those examples first. Okay, let's come back to Hooke's law a little later, maybe 5 minutes. Give me just 5 to 10 minutes. We'll come back to this thing. Let's discuss some more ideas like how the longitudinal and shear stress actually act. Take this rod for an example. Force, it's being pulled from both the sides, but I want to cut it along this cross section area. I want to cut it along that cross section area. So when I cut it, the tension is like this, the force is like this. The tension definitely has two components along the area of cross section perpendicular to the, if only this is theta, this is d cos theta, this is t sin theta. Again, obviously, since it is not moving, t is nothing but f. So you obviously have that longitudinal stress along this area and shear stress along that area. So there are some theoretical questions like that. And there is one more example in your textbooks. Like take a body like this, try to put force on the body like this, and it'll start deforming like this. So this is basically shear stress. Okay, like it is there in your textbooks, but it's up to you if you want to go through these ideas, just theoretical ideas. There are now no practical problematic questions on this thing at all. I mean, there are a few, but not that difficult. Okay, these are like the basic standard theoretical questions. That's all. Okay, now let me go back to Hooke's law. The idea of Hooke's law is very very simple, but it has limitations. Let me show you that. So like an example that I gave, if only we have a spring, you stretch it to a length, it comes back, since it is clearly elastic. But if only I stretch it way too much, it doesn't really come back, it comes back to this length. So this is the original length of the spring, but look at this situation. If we stretch it way too much, what's happening to the spring? It's not really coming back to its original position, right? So there is a permanent deformation. That is where the material has become plastic. Okay, the idea of Hooke's law is not for this range, it is only for this range. In the elastic range, whenever we're talking about the elastic range only, the Hooke's law is basically valid. Sharath, what is it? Sharath.
Sir, like you said, sir, if we stretch a spring up to a large extent, then it gets deformed. Sir, after that, it becomes plastic. I think it won't, sir. It still has some elastic property, right? If we try to pull it in
It
again,
still
come
has,
back to its original shape.
like, I agree, yeah, it's not completely plastic, but it has moved to that side of plasticity. Okay, like there is no specific border. Okay, you can't say that this is the border where it becomes from elastic to plastic. That is stupid to say. Okay, is this a range where
Sir,
it is? Yeah.
can we say that first it was elastic, then for a short period of time it became plastic, and then again it's elastic?
No. After that period, it won't be elastic anymore. Once it is plastic, it is plastic. It won't come back. Okay.
So then, like after we elongate it, sir, after it gets deformed, sir, if you try to pull it, it'll again come back to its original shape, right, sir?
No, I don't think it does.
Original, I mean the shape it had after
I
it
don't think
became
it'll ever
plastic.
show the real property of that elasticity ever once you push it beyond the plastic limit. Okay, these things will matter. I mean, like, make more sense once I talk about the further topics. Okay, like, just look at this topic, like this idea itself. The Hooke's law. The idea of Hooke's law is in the elastic range. In that elastic range we are talking about. In that elastic range we are talking about, when the deformation is like very small, is very small, that is when, according to his statement, the stress is directly proportional to strain. That is an important point. In this range, in the small range of deformations where it doesn't really become plastic, as long as it is elastic, as long as the material is elastic, the stress that we create is proportional to strain, or we can say the strain is proportional to stress. Like I said, the more strain and more stress, but they're actually directly proportional to each other. So they take this idea, they apply to all the three different things, where longitudinal, shear, and volume, all the three stress, it's always stress proportional to strain. So you can write it as F by A proportional to delta L by L. And then comes F by A only proportional to theta, or proportional to X by H. And then volume, pressure proportional to delta V by V. Stress proportional to strain in all the cases. That's what we're writing. But guys, please remember, in this case, there is a minus there, not just here. Every time you talk about the volume strain, there is a minus. Can somebody tell me why there is a minus here? If you can look at this, there is a clear indication why there is a minus. Sharath.
Because the volume decreases over here, sir.
Exactly. Except in the only case when you put pressure, the volume actually decreases. The delta V is negative. In every other case, whenever you're putting the stress, the body is elongating, right? But in this case, look at this. Whenever you put some positive stress, you're getting some negative strain. So to put it in the same equation, we always put a negative sign additionally. So there is a negative sign there. Just remember this part. Pressure is directly proportional to minus delta V by V. Okay, we'll come back to these two later. I mean, right after this point. So F by A proportional to delta L by L. So there must be some constant. So I put a constant there. So that constant is nothing but modulus of elasticity. They call it as the modulus of elasticity. Here also they put some constant says F by A proportional to eta. This eta is different, guys. Please remember this is different from viscosity. There is no proportionality anymore. Since I put the constant there, you can put an equality. And P proportional to, they put a constant which is called as B minus delta V by V. Okay, there are three constants that we newly introduced. One is Y, eta, and B. Of course, they're named just like that. Modulus of elasticity are the longitudinal modulus of elasticity. Here it is called as shear modulus of elasticity. Here it is also called as the bulk modulus of elasticity. Bulk modulus of elasticity. People also call this one, the first one, as Young's modulus. Okay, there's a scientist name, so just named after that, or just that one, Young's modulus of elasticity. Remember all these three words and their definitions and their equations. The way we put it is really important. Please try to remember those ideas. Okay, if you want to remember them more, like take a screenshot or something, but I'll share the notes anyway, so you don't really have to worry. F by A. So this is the Young's modulus. So Young's modulus of elasticity, longitudinal modulus of elasticity, you can call it as shear modulus, or they have another name, of course. They also have the name as rigidity modulus of elasticity. The rigidity modulus of elasticity. This bulk modulus, or do they have any other name for this? I can't think of anything. I think there is another name, but I can't think of the name. Bulk modulus or anything like that. No, I think, yeah, just go with this name, bulk modulus of elasticity as of, okay? It doesn't really matter. So we can play with all of those constants, but let's just play with this one only, the first one only, okay? F by A equals to Young's modulus by delta L by L. Or you can play more like F by A by delta L by L equals to Young's modulus. Or I can write this as FL by A delta L equals to Young's modulus. Or I can write it as FL by AY equals to delta L. I'm just moving the words here and there. That's all. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just taking this constant and writing these terms. So the thing is, the equation that we have right here has some importance, because when you have the amount of force that you put on a wire or a rod, a material longitudinally, the length of the rod or the wire, the area of cross section of the wire, and the Young's modulus, they mention this thing. This is like a material property. So like Young's modulus of copper, they will give Young's modulus of iron, they give Young's modulus of some other material. They will give these values. They are like standard values. So you have all the values. From that you can find the elongation. It's like somebody gives you saying there is an aluminum wire of area of cross section of the aluminum wire is 2 centimeters square, and they put 20 newtons. And the Young's modulus of aluminum is also mentioned. I don't remember the value. I don't want to give any random value because there are specific values there. So you have all the values. They ask you how much is the elongation. Guys, remember, if you put 20 newtons on one side, it won't just sit there, right? You have to fix it onto the something on the other side. So let's just say we fixed it onto something else. So obviously the other side is also pulling some force. So we clearly have FL by AY. F is nothing but 20 newtons. Acha, length of the wire must also be mentioned. Length of the wire, let's just say 2 meters. So 2 into 20 meters FL by area is nothing but 2 centimeters square. So 2 into 10 to the power of minus 4. By Young's modulus, they will definitely give you. So they put that value, calculate. So mathematically, we can find the elongation in an aluminum wire whenever they put this much amount of force. That is what this topic is about. Okay. So whenever they give you all these values, all you need to do is just put in all the values and find the elongation. It's as simple as that. They even give you questions like, yeah, this question is very important, simple, right? Let me give you another one, like another model. They give you a question like this, a wire hanging like this. So they give you 20 kgs of weight. How much elongation, how much delta L is there in the wire? How do you calculate? All you need to do is simply, I mean, like the length you must know. The tension in the wire is nothing but mg of the block. So 20 G is the tension. Delta L equals to TL by AY. Tension is nothing but 20 G. Length will be mentioned. They have to mention the length, and the area of cross section of the wire is also mentioned. And Young's modulus, because they mention the material, whether it is aluminum, copper, or anything like that. They even give you that thing. Because of this weight, the rod, I mean the wire obviously expands to some other length. So you will easily get that change in length delta. As simple as that. Okay, guys, do you get this point? Until this point, do you have any doubts, any ideas, any worries? Aniket. Yeah, Aniket.
Sir, one small doubt. I got confused in that small L, sir.
Small L as in, where is the small L?
Yes, sir. That TL by AY, right, sir? So that's small L.
This L is nothing
Yes,
but the
sir.
length of the wire. This.
Like, once can you show, sir, where it is coming from? I'm getting confused in that.
I mean, you want me to give you a complete question on that?
No, sir. Like, in that equation, where is that small L coming from?
Okay, wait a second. So we have this equation F by A delta L by L equals to Y.
Yes, sir.
Stress by strain equals to Y. Do you remember? Do you agree with this equation?
Yes, sir.
So if I write it like this, FL by A delta L. Do you agree here?
Oh, okay, sir.
I send the L upstairs and bring the A downstairs. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And I replace these two. I mean, not these two, these two. So
Understood, sir.
yeah. From that you get. Wait a second. From that you get FL by AY equals to delta L. Agree?
Yes, sir.
So there are similar questions in HE Verma. Okay, let me take you there. In the first few pages, there are a lot of similar questions on this simple basic idea. No, that is surface tension. Ganesh is asking a doubt, sir, is that force must be constant always if it is variable? If the force is varying, it's a difficult problem. Since it's just the first day, I'm not really taking you through all the difficult problems. I hope you understand that. Ganesh, do you get that? Yes, you can take variable force. You can take a lot of difficult cases also, but we are not discussing all those difficult cases. Aniket? Aniket?
Yes, sir. Sir, I had this doubt. In that shear stress, sir, you showed two cases, right? If we get a problem involving both together.
No, that will be like a very difficult case. The second case itself is a very strange case, okay? I just wanted to give you a question, that's all. I mean, like just an idea about it, but that case is like very difficult, very different also.
Okay, sir. So we can't combine those two thetas, sir.
I mean, you can combine, but the problem will get like really difficult. So, okay.
Sir.
Yeah. Now, guys, look at these problems once. All these problems are based on like the same idea. They give you all the values like area of cross section, length, area of cross section. He's asking strain, elongation, Young's modulus is given. You see this Young's modulus value? It's as simple as that. They give you other values, and again the elastic. Okay, in this question, he is giving the elastic limit. Let me talk about that once. It is like the maximum stress that they mention. So every time you give a problem, very simple problem like 20 kg, and the length of the wire is 2 meters, and the area of cross section of the wire is 1 centimeter square, area of cross section. And Young's modulus is also given as y is given as 2 into 10 to the power of 8, let's just say. Find the elongation. This is a very simple problem. Delta L is nothing but FL by AY. F is nothing but 20g into length is nothing but 2 meters. The area of cross section is 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4 since SI units, like I said. And Young's modulus is also given 2 into 10 to the power of 8. From that, you will get a different answer. That is nothing but the change in length. Now, once this part is over, there is another question where they're giving the limit of this thing, elastic limit. It's nothing but the maximum stress. He's talking about the maximum stress. So when the maximum stress is given, you equate it to F by A, so you'll find the maximum force. So the maximum weight that you can put here, that is a question. Let's say you put 20 kgs, it is still in the elastic limit. You put 30 kgs, maybe it's not. So from the maximum stress that they give, you can find the maximum force that you can put, and there are questions like that. Now there are more questions like they're not really creative, it's just a different type of questions, okay? Like they hang 2 wires and 2 bodies, 10 kg, 20 kg. So in this problem, all you need to do is the tension here is 20g, the tension here is 30g. I hope you're clear about this from the topic of like Newton laws. The tension in the bottom wire is 20g, the tension in the top wire is 30g. So whenever you write TL by AY for this wire, like let us say the length L1, the length is L2, the Y1 and Y2 is also separate. So you write 30g by L1 by AY1 for this thing, for this wire elongation. Again for this wire, it is nothing but 20g by L2 AY2. Do you get it? So this is how it is, guys. Okay, this is how you write elongations in wires. This is a very simple ways to write these values. There is a question where they combine 2 wires here itself. L1, L2, Y1, Y2, and they put a basic, like a mass at the bottom, like a 20 kg mass. The good thing about this thing is the tension here and tension here are equal now. Both are 20g, 20g only. Both are 20g, 20g only. So it is easier, it's a lot easier to find the elongation. There are problems where they even have these problems also. Like they give a pulley problem, and the masses are accelerating. In this case, they're asking the elongation. So you have to do all the Newton laws and find the tension in the wire, like mg minus t, t minus mb. You have to write all those things, and you find the tension from that and put that tension into L by AY, and that is how you find the elongation in this case. There is a different model, there is an important different model where they simply have a wire, that's all. Now, why will it elongate? The problem is, in all these cases, we are neglecting the masses of these wires. Weightless. We are considering all these masses are weightless. This is weightless. This is weightless. Weightless, weightless. All these masses are considered to be weightless in the previous cases. I didn't mention that, but now I'm mentioning. All these wires are considered as weightless. Now we are considering the own weight of the wire or the rod itself, and we are trying to find the elongation in the wire. Can somebody give an idea how you can find the elongation of a wire by its own weight? Anybody? No? Anybody, guys? How are you going to find the elongation due to its own weight? The problem here is If you break it here, the tension is only bearing this weight. But if you are breaking it here, the tension here is taking this entire weight. There's a difference in between those 2 points. Like at this point, the tension is T1. At this point, the tension is T2. T2 is clearly greater than T1. As you're going up, the tension is clearly increasing. How do you find the elongation in this case? Of course, Sharath, it involves integration. Ganesh also says consider weightless rope and body. No, Ganesh, you cannot consider weightless rope and body because the tension is varying. You have to integrate for sure, but how you do it and all is your job. That is a homework for tomorrow for you people. Today, you can start doing all these problems, guys. You can start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 also, I guess. 10 will be a little difficult, but you can do it. All these 10 questions I want you to do and try to solve. Then we will continue to the tomorrow's topic. Otherwise, there isn't much to cover today itself. Okay, try these problems today itself and try to solve as much as possible. Now, any doubts before I end the session today? Anybody? No doubts, I guess. Well then, guys, thank you so much. We will talk about the next of the class tomorrow. Yes, I will send you the notes for sure. Don't worry. I will send you the notes right away today itself. All right. Thank you so much and bye bye.